Thank you for listening to Wrestling Changed My Life podcast. Welcome back, folks. Today's guest is University of Wisconsin head coach Chris Bono, who absolutely brings the energy. This guy is super motivating and gets into a couple stories that I don't think a lot of people have heard before. One of which was what it was like his freshman year, going from Florida to Iowa State, which he says is one of the most challenging periods of his life. We get into working out with the Brains brothers and ultimately how he built South Dakota State from literally nothing into a top 12 team, and now what he's doing at Wisconsin. By far, one of the most motivating episodes we've had so far. So appreciate y'all listening. For past episode, please visit WrestlingChangeMyLife.org. And if you're listening this on your phone, please subscribe, review, or rate the podcast. Thank you all. We'll talk to you soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time. Enjoy the show.
Well, I was a fanatic. There's no doubt a fanatic. My goal was to get carried out of the wrestling room because of exhaustion, and it never happened. The thing it did for me every day about 6 o'clock is that when I got out, I looked back in and there was nobody else there. Bottom line was I didn't reach my goal. So guess what happened? I went back in the room again. But I got some quality time because of just some kind of a fanatic goal.
Well, let's talk wrestling. Is it true that you first got into the sport when your dad dropped you off at age 5 and your mom yelled at him for leaving you there alone and he had to come back and get you?
Yeah, that's true story.
So
story.
How did it go from there? How did you get involved with the sport and how did you end up moving to Florida?
Yeah, well, we when I showed up that day with my dad and dropped my brother off, it was in Pennsylvania, and he told me to stay put and he'll be back to get me in an hour. And when he left, they started practice, and they were, there was an odd number, and the coach basically said, "Hey, you want to come be a practice partner?" And I said, "Sure." I jumped out there, and I did real good in practice. And the coach came back, and my dad came to pick me up after. He went home, and my mom, basically said, "Where's the little one?" He goes, "I left him there to watch." And she said, "You better get back there right now and go get him." And when he came back, the coach grabbed my dad and said, "Give me $5 more, and we got to sign your little one up." And he did, and the rest was, kind of history.
Oh my God, that's crazy. So how did you end up at Florida, and when did you really start to see the success that you saw when you were at, 3-time state champ, junior cadet All-American? When did you start to see the fruits of your labor?
Yeah, so my old man got promoted. He worked for an insurance company, and he moved us down to Florida. I think I was in fifth grade maybe. And the thing was, when I got down there, there was no wrestling really in Florida. There was no junior high program or anything. So the only thing I could really do, there was no AAU program. It was all USA Wrestling. So I was lucky enough to be able to go to a private school and train with their high school team throughout the year. And of course, I didn't get to wrestle, any dual meets. I'm only in fifth grade, right? I'm training with a high school team, but then I got to wrestle in all the USA Wrestling events starting in the summertime. So I didn't have a real long season, for my fifth and sixth grade year. It was just wrestling in the summer. And then I was lucky enough that in seventh grade, I made the varsity high school team for a private school, and I was able to compete, at the high school level and have the high school season to wrestle, and then, start the cadet freestyle stuff and do all that kind of stuff in the summer as well.
So that's interesting. I didn't know that. So you were just training a lot as a fifth and sixth grader versus competing a lot. So you maybe, that had something to do with kind of the passion you have for it now, because you're, obsessed with the sport. Did you always have that kind of passion and energy you got as a kid?
Yeah, I don't ever recall, not wanting to do it. I recall there not being a lot of opportunity for me at that time being in Florida. You know what I mean? So it was always, here's your schedule. You got 3 events, as a fifth grader. You got this, and this. And that was all I had. But I thoroughly enjoyed going into those practices at the high school level. You know what I mean? All year long. I couldn't wait for the season to get started. And luckily enough, I had some great parents who, would pick me up from, elementary school and, drive me 40 minutes and let me practice with the high school team. So it was definitely an awesome experience. I was just out of club the other day, a great prominent club out recruiting. And I just sat around thinking, man, I can't imagine if I would have had this when I was a kid. The way that all the club structures that they have now, how much better I probably could have been, and if I could have done it year round when I was at that age.
Isn't it amazing the academy circuit now? When I was coming up in Illinois, overtime school wrestling was dominant, and then now in Wisconsin you got the Askren Wrestling Academy. I mean, how unbelievable is the gathering at the Askren clubs? I mean, I'm sure you go to those practices. What's that like in there?
Yeah, Ben. The Askren club is great. What people don't understand really is Ben's got he's got 3 of them around the state. It's just not one club.
Right.
It's one. He's got them around the state. He's got 3 academies right now. And he's got his brother running one, and he's got a college buddy running another, and he runs another one. And it's amazing. It's great to be in collaboration with Ben and Max, and it's great having them on our team. They're awesome. They're awesome guys, and they do awesome stuff for the community. And they're developing some great wrestlers. We're living in those clubs. Watching them develop these kids, and it's just great to be with those guys. And they love Wisconsin, and they love Wisconsin wrestling now. And it's just been an unbelievable partnership with those guys, and fired up to keep going with them.
It seems like they do it the right way too. Like, you hear them talk about how they're more focused on the development of getting people to actually love the sport. Like, they don't allow any weight cutting until you're in middle school, and they don't even let kids at a young age practice more than twice a week. So they seem to be doing it the right way and really developing kids who love the sport versus competing a lot and getting medals, which is nothing wrong with that. But if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, it can be detrimental long term.
Yeah, those guys, and it's great to be side by side with Ben, because he has to be in the what am I looking for? He has to be in the moment with these young kids, right? I don't deal with these young kids. I'm dealing with the 18 to 23-year-old kid. So he has to be in the moment of the 8-year-old or the 9-year-old, and today's current issues at that age and what they're doing. And it's great to actually sit around and listen to his philosophy on wrestling, and it's helped me. It's helped me understand what is coming our way, right? When he gets done training an 8-year-old or till he's 18, here's what you're getting, Bono, right? Here's how you might have to change a little bit as a coach to deal with this kid. And he doesn't deal with it, some of the issues the way that, a normal guy would deal with it. And, but then here's another guy that, you know what I mean? You got to grind him down. You got to train him, like an old school, the way you train. So it's really neat to sit with him and understand he's got his philosophy, but then also when we're starting to recruit his kids, he's like, hey, here's the kid you got to train this way. Here's how this kid likes to be trained. And so, there's never a miscommunication. And it's been an awesome partnership. And, we love having Ben in our corner, and Matt. Yeah.
I mean, it's just amazing how many clubs there are. You look at Iowa, you got like the Seabold Academy. In Minnesota, you have, I can't think of the one that Lawrence runs. And then Illinois, you have Overtime. And there's just so many of them now. And these are like breeding grounds for just absolute animals. So there was nothing like that around when you were a kid growing up in Florida.
Right. Correct. Nothing.
So you get to Iowa State. Was it Gibbons or Bobby Douglas who was recruiting you at that time?
Gibbons. I signed under Gibbons. That's kind of a funny story. I signed under Gibbons, and Jim resigned, and I was about 1,000% that Joe Gibbons was taking the job, and that's who did most of the recruiting was Joe. I had a great relationship with Joe, and I was all excited, right? And then I get a phone call Easter morning from Bobby Douglas, and I'm the new head coach at Iowa State. And I said, no, I heard Joe Gibbons is the job, and and he's like, no, I'm the new head coach. And so it was awesome. It was great, at the time. Luckily, I had some great advice. Again, my parents, when I went through the recruiting process, basically said, when you make your decision, you need to make it on, other factors than the coach. Let the coach be the bonus, right? If you love this coach and you hate the school and you don't like the teammates, it's probably not the right place for you. I went to Iowa State for all the right reasons. And then having Bobby Douglas as my head coach was just the icing on the cake.
Who else was recruiting you at that time besides Iowa State? Like, where'd you take your visits to?
Well, I took my 5 visits to Clemson, Wisconsin. Ironically, I came here on a visit. I went to West Virginia on a visit, and Nebraska. I took my visits there.
Okay. And so you picked Iowa State, and yeah, Bobby Douglas is an interesting guy. When he was competing, he absolutely dominated people, including people like Dan Gable, and he was the guy at that time. Made a couple Olympic teams, and then when he was at Arizona State, it was the first time any team outside of the powerhouses had really won. And so, what was it like making the transition from high school wrestling in Florida to big time college wrestling in Iowa?
Yeah, it was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. It was, you go from winning a lot and winning every practice and never getting taken down and leaving every high school practice, happy. And you did this and you did that, to going to Iowa State, where I don't think I got a takedown until February of my freshman year. So it was a complete opposite. I just got mauled my whole freshman year, and and you don't think you can make it. The best advice I ever get, which is the advice I give to everybody still to this day, is keep showing up. You gotta leave what happens in that room and keep showing up. And I listened to a lot of great people who said, listen, once you get through your freshman year, you'll start getting better and you'll start learning and blah blah blah, and you'll get stronger and you'll be ready to go. And I kept my head down and kept working. And I always look back to my true freshman year at Iowa State as the year that really defined me. Everybody says they want, your national championship year defined. My freshman year defined me because after I met with Bobby after my freshman year, he said, but Bobby's blunt, right? Which is I loved about him. And he said, you got a lot of work to do just to make this team. And here's how you're going to here's how you're going to do it. And he told me, you're going to show up every morning at, whatever it was, 6:30, 7 o'clock, and I'm going to meet you here, bring a partner. And I remember we did it 3 days a week, every day in the summer. He would walk his laps around the wrestling room and basically bark at me to do one thing right for about 2 hours. And eventually I started getting, I started understanding after, 6 straight hours in 1 week of shooting a single leg, I knew how to shoot a single leg, and it showed me that we're not going to come in here and do 10,000 different things. You're going to sit here and you're going to perfect how to, run to the leg 6 straight hours for Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And we did that our whole summer. And then we continued that every summer afterward. And, I wound up developing a little system that he helped me with. And, the rest was kind of history.
So it wasn't a shoo-in at all that you were going to start your redshirt freshman year. You had to scrap it out.
Shoo-in. I beat 2 guys my freshman year that I had never beaten in practice. I didn't think I was making the team.
My God.
I couldn't beat them in practice, and then I won. I beat them in a wrestle-off. I didn't think I was making the team.
So you're dealing with a couple things. You're far away from home. Iowa, the winters in Ames, Iowa are much different than Florida. So you have that going for you. The self-doubt had to be creeping in a little bit. Like, do you remember any specific points in that season where you were at kind of the breaking point and kind of how you talked yourself out of it?
I called my dad. I called my dad and said, I want to come home. And basically told me it's a long walk home from Ames, Iowa to Jacksonville, Florida. And that was what told me. And then, of course, in the conversation, he basically told me, listen, you've been successful at everything you've done. Some have come easy, some have come hard. Put your head down and go to work, and you'll be able to, you will be successful, but put your head down, listen to your coaches. Don't listen to anybody around you. Coach says this, do this, go meet with coach, go do this. It was all about getting that relationship with your coach, and learning how to work hard, and learning how to work smart. And I put all my trust in Bobby Douglas. And at that time, Tom Ortiz was my assistant coach, and I put all my trust in those guys. And they didn't let me down. They steered me in the right way, and they were blunt, and there was a lot of tears, and there was a lot of, basically teaching me how to wrestle. And I can never be more thankful and grateful for the time that they put into me, when, they inherit a Florida kid that went 0-4 his true freshman year. And they were able to take me to, win a national title and, be a 3-time All-American and go on and have an international career that I did. And, and I take my coaching philosophy straight from Bobby Douglas now. And so they taught me everything I need to know.
I mean, if that's not skill development at its core level, I don't know what else is. I mean, that's unbelievable. Even your redshirt freshman year, when you made the nationals, if I'm reading things correctly, you had a losing record and kind of snuck in, and then you have a breakthrough. On paper, it looks like a breakthrough. Your junior year, you win it. What happened between those 2 years to propel that? Just more of the same, more momentum and more building?
Yeah, I learned how to wrestle. And you know, my freshman to sophomore year was huge. I think I'd won 13 total matches maybe my freshman year. And then my sophomore year, I'll never forget this. You know, back then we wrestled in a lot of open tournaments, and I remember I would get beat in like the second round every open tournament, and then I was wrestling all the way back to third or fourth or fifth, and I was getting 8-9 matches every weekend. And I really believe it was the experience of everything, of learning how to compete, which, you know, you got to learn how to compete at that level. I was getting better.
What do you mean by that?
You got to learn how to compete. You got to learn how to show up every single day and compete. You know, even in practice, you have to compete and put yourself in those positions every single day that you're going to find yourself in matches. If you just come in the wrestling room and don't compete and give things away, you give up single leg. Someone gets your leg, you give up, right? Someone puts your arm on your back, you roll over. You've got to learn how to compete when you're, you know, in the morning workouts, when you guys are doing sprint laps. You've got to learn to compete. If you take a back seat in those things and give up and give in to, you know, my legs are a little tired, or you give in because someone's a little faster than you, or you give in, that translates into how you compete in a match. When times get tough, you quit. Times get, you know what I mean? And I prided myself in competing in everything. You know, of course, I didn't win anything, right? You know, but when coach would say, hey, you know, at the end of practice, you know, the first guy to 2 takedowns, practice is over. Oh boy, that was a dogfight for me. I don't care who I was wrestling. You know, if I wasn't going to get those 2 takedowns, it was going to be a 40-minute end of the practice, you know, to get 2 takedowns on me. You know, you weren't giving nothing up. Right. So I learned how to compete. Plus, I was in a great room. You know what I mean? I was around the Eric Akins and Dan Troops and Matt Johnsons. I mean, 3- and 4-time All-Americans that, you know, basically told me how it was. You know what I mean? You're never going to win unless you do this. You don't know how to do this. You know, Torrey Jackson was in that room. And you know, they were winning Olympic medals out of that room and national championships. And so I learned how to compete, you know, and I got better technically. And I wanted to win. I would do anything it took to win, you know, and I had the passion to be great. I wanted to be great. I wasn't doing it to, you know, just to do it. And there's a lot of people that want to just be in a Division I room. I was in it to achieve the highest level I possibly could. And I wasn't going to stop until I got there.
Yeah. I mean, that comes through just even in this conversation. What do you think about this one, Coach? What do you think about visualization and like the self-talk you have with yourself? Did you get into that at all when you were in college?
Yeah, you know what? I'm a big believer in visualization. You know, when I get on the treadmill, you know, even to this day, you know, I'm thinking about technique and run. You know, how am I getting better here? But visualization is a big deal. You know, when you can see yourself shooting a high crotch, you know, 10 million times, I really believe that correlates into getting out there and doing it perfectly in a match. When you see it, I used to love seeing myself get my hand raised. Everything I did, that was a lot of my visualization. Seeing myself get my hand raised, seeing the joy of, you know, your family members, seeing yourself being in that big match to win for your team, to win that dual meet for your team. So I always like to see myself winning, right? You know, and then the big thing is everybody talks about this, and I had this too, is some negative things creep into your mind, right? You see yourself getting beat. But I used to meet with a sports psychiatrist a lot. You know, a performance coach per se.
Really?
And you know, the big thing was, and you know, right, that's a great thing. Right? I encourage that here at our here at Wisconsin. It's you know, we've got some great people in our you know, our performance staff here that help with everything, performance anxiety, to the negative thoughts that come in your head. You know, and the biggest thing I was taught was you control what comes into your mind. You control what comes in. You control what goes out. All right. If something negative comes in and you tend to dwell on that negative, and you can't get that out, that's on you. So I learned how to cope with, you know, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Oh, the guy takes me down. Well, that's a negative thought. You've got to turn that into a positive, get it out of your mind, and start focusing on how you want the match to go, or how you want your training to go, or how you think. And that really, really helped me sleep at night. It helped me not to worry about things, and it helped me to worry about the things I can control. You look at 2019 right now, everybody, these motivational quotes, this and this, everybody's like, control what you can control. I was taught that back in 1998. What comes, you control what comes into your mind. And if you let your focus be on what the negative things that come in, man, you're going to have some problems. If you let outside influences affect the way you think, and you don't depend on your coaches and your teammates and your support staff, then there's problems. And I think in today's age, I don't really want to go here, but I think these kids that come into college have a lot of outside influences that affect them. You know what I mean? They've got their club coach, they've got their high school coach, they've got parents that have a lot of, that want to control their kid. They've got this, they've got that. So I think there's a lot of issues that when they're coming into college and when things go a little wrong, right, they go listen to 87 different people instead of trusting in, what got them there, trusting in the process, trusting in, their teammates, trusting in their coaches. And the great ones can do that. And that's what we deal with a lot here. And that's why I love our performance staff here at Wisconsin, because they do a great job of really helping our guys mentally when things get challenging.
I love that. And it's something where I feel like, bizarrely, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that was seen as a weak thing maybe to see a sports psychologist. But it's crazy to me, because every high-level athlete, no matter the sport, will agree that when you get to the national tournament, for example, there's 32 guys there. Maybe not all 32 can physically win. Maybe 10 can physically win. But the difference between the top 10 is the mentality. But we spend 99% of our time training the body, the physical, and not the mind. And so Michael Chandler, who he's a Bellator fighter, he kind of turned me onto this book through a podcast he did with someone else. It's called Mind Gym, and it talks about that. It's like, why would you not train the mind when we know it's the make or break between first, second, and third, so to speak?
No, you're 100% right. And we have in our practices, that's a daily thing for us. I train their mind, these guys, daily. And the funny thing is they don't know it. We put them in situations that really is it's just a mentality type issue with their mindset. And we put them in those positions daily. And we challenge them daily mentally, just like we challenge them daily physically. And it's amazing when you see growth mentally, and they don't really even understand it until you sit down and talk to them, and then it all starts to click. And it's a wonderful thing. Your mind. Hey man, your mind is powerful. Your mind is the most powerful thing you have. And it's like everything says, your body tires way before your mind. So if you can keep your mind in that zone and stay focused, your body will do anything you tell it. And I'm a big believer, big believer.
Yeah, it's awesome to hear that. It's not surprising at all, just based on some of the interviews you've done. Now, I have to ask about this, because I grew up in this area, and don't hold this against me, Coach Bono, but I grew up an Iowa Hawkeye fan, and I know you were wrestling at Iowa State, had some battles with Lincoln McElravy, had some battles with Bill Zadick. What was it like competing against Gable in those days?
I thrived on it, right? That was the guy that I had to beat to be Olympic champion. I didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
In McElravy. So I thrived on it, right? They were an hour and a half up the road. I tried to study them every chance I got. Maybe my focus was, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but fanatical, right? My focus was fanatical on that Iowa program. Because that's all we heard in the state of Iowa, and that was when Iowa was winning some titles, and, they're always having national champions and Gable this, Gable that. Well, I was fanatical because that's who I had to beat to win a national championship. So I studied them, whether they know that or not. I was getting close to the brands, when I was training internationally, and I'd work out with them a lot. I'd pick their brain, and I was studying what's making that program so successful. You know what? There's nothing but respect for those guys, because they were hardworking, Now, is that what's making Cale Sanderson successful at Penn State right now? That same system? I would say that, a lot of it is the same, right? They got some hardworking kids.
You think so? I was going to say absolutely.
You got to understand, to be successful, you got to be able to work at this level, right? Wrestling's hard. The wrestling season is hard. Is it different philosophies? in terms of, is it technical versus brutality, right? All that stuff. I love it. I love studying what makes people great and what makes people think. And, I know Cale real well. And, but going back to the Iowa situation, right? I was an hour and a half up the road. I studied those guys. Lincoln McElravy, in my mind, was the best guy I've ever competed against in my life. And I knew that if I could beat him, I could be an Olympic champion. So that's who I was focused on. I wasn't focused on, even internationally, I wasn't focused on the Russian or the Iranian. I was focused on, I make this team, the World Olympic team. I know I can go win a gold medal because I just beat the best guy in the world.
Yeah. And so you use it as fuel. Do you have any stories of those training encounters with the Brains brothers? I didn't realize you guys worked out together.
Oh man, I got a ton of them. I don't know where to start. You know what I mean? But I know that when Terry made the 2000 team, was it? Did he make it in 2000?
Yeah.
In Australia, when he made it in Australia, I was I think I was the runner-up that year, and so I was at all the training camps. And I remember Gable you'd warm up, and Gable would grab me and say, "Brands wants you today." And you know what I mean? I loved it. It was 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes. We wrestled till he was done. And this guy was at what was the weight? 125 and a half. And I was a 152 pounder, right? So I was 170 pounds and he was probably 135 pounds. And I got to work out with him. And it was awesome because, I worked out with him, and again, I was a couple years out of college at the time. And I worked out with him. I rode the bike with him. I sat in the sauna with him. I ate dinner with him. I got to know this guy who supposedly is my rival, who supposedly we should hate each other. And it was great. It was a great relationship, a ton of respect between each other. And it's carried over to this day. I get along with those guys really well. You know what I mean? You wouldn't notice it when we're coaching against each other. But man, I like being around them. You know what I mean? I like being around them at training camps. I like being around them in social settings. I like, especially when it's around wrestling, right? When there's a chance to go work out or a chance to watch them, how they interact with the athletes. I like those guys. I get along with those guys real well. And I loved working out with Terry Brands because I think that we both had the mentality that, you know what I mean? I wasn't going to quit. He wasn't going to quit. And we weren't going to stop until the coach said, "You guys are done." And
so he was still going real hard, even leading up to the Olympics. Because he was a little bit older. He didn't make it at 96. Tom won it. He took some time off in that next quad, ends up coming back in 99, 2000, wins the trials. And then, during those 3 to 4 months before the Olympics, you guys got to work out. So he was still going real hard, even at that point.
Yeah, he didn't slow down, that's for sure. He was trying to win a gold medal. He trained his tail off. You know what I mean? And it was great. It was great. I had never worked out with those guys before. I mean, I remember going to the Olympics in 2004 with Cale, and Tom and I would just wrestle. We were both coaching, right? We were both, you know what I mean? And I was like, I need a partner. I'm trying to, obviously I was still competing and I wanted to work out. And I'm like, Tom, you want to work out? And we would wrestle, and he grabbed me tonight and goes, "Hey, I'm gonna go." Right. And then even I'm over there as a training partner for Joe Williams, and Tom and I are running sprints on a field. You know what I mean? When the team is off, so it was the same mentality. You know what I mean? They were done competing, but still it was the lifestyle of, getting up and getting a workout in the morning, and you know what I mean? And then, 4 o'clock comes and the team was taken care of, and hey, you want to wrestle for 30 minutes? And, of course they were hour and a half, it wasn't just 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And, that was, I think the mentality, was kind of the same in the fact that, it's wrestling 365 days for us. Every day I'm trying to figure out how to get better as a competitor. When I was competing, now every day I'm trying to figure out how to get my guys better and what makes each one of them tick, and how I can do that for them.
So it just doesn't seem like there's ever been a day for you where you didn't want to be involved with wrestling. You never woke up thinking, I don't want to work out today. You just loved it.
Well, there was a time, man. There was a time. I was out of wrestling for a year and a half. I thought I was done with it.
Really? When was this now? Was this before Chattanooga?
I was telling. Nope. It was after it was when I went back to Iowa State, as an assistant coach. After Chattanooga, I went back to Iowa State, and then after that, I got out of the game for right before I went to South Dakota State. I got out and sold medical devices for about 16 months. Okay. And, you know, that's where I was at my lowest of my lows with the sport. And, you know, you talk about, you know, you go back and you start realizing things aren't working out where I am at Iowa State. I was a runner-up at the Olympic trials. I was a runner-up at how many world team trials. I was a runner-up in the national finals one year. I was a runner-up for some head coaching jobs at some prominent institutions. And all of a sudden you have a conversation with one of your buddies that say, hey, you would kill it in medical sales. You know, we're doing well financially. Why don't you give it a try? And I'm like, you know, I don't have you know, I'm out of a job. Let me go try to make this thing happen, right? Maybe my calling is not wrestling. And I got into medical sales and moved my family from Iowa to South Carolina. And I tried to make it work. I really, really did. You know, I moved down there in August, and I remember the first March rolled around, and my wife said, are you going to go to the NCAA tournament? And I said, no, I'm not going. I can't. I want to make this work. I don't want to be in wrestling anymore. And then if I go to the NCAA tournament, I don't know what's going to happen. And I didn't go to the NCAA tournament. And then the funny thing that happened was, and you know, this is where I'm in a big believer in my faith, was out of the blue, some kids found out that I was in town, and Dad called me and said, hey, you know, would you like to do a private lesson with my kid and start helping them, you know, get better and this and that? And I said, sure, why not? You know what I mean? I can do it. And one thing led to another. You know, MMA was getting really big, and then an MMA gym in town found out I was there, and he's like, listen, I got 12 guys here that don't know how to wrestle. Can you come teach wrestling one night a week? I said, sure. The bottom line was that turned out to be like a 6, you know, and about over a course of a month and a half, it turned out to be a 6-day-a-week thing for me. I started showing up at the MMA gym, doing private wrestling lessons, training fighters. And then what happened was I wound up going to the NCAA tournament the following year, and I came home, and I didn't tell my wife, but I applied for the South Dakota State job. And I got lucky enough, and the long story short was I was lucky enough to land that, accepted the job right at the offer, didn't negotiate a salary, didn't do anything, because I knew my calling was in wrestling. I had to get back into it, and it renewed me. I needed to get out to have the passion and the energy I have now to get back in and do well. And not a day goes by that I'm not thankful that I'm in the sport of wrestling, that I get to coach, that I get to mentor kids. And, you know what I mean? There's not one person in this world that loves what they do more than me. And I can guarantee you that.
Wow. It's no question about it. And, you know, I did know that you were at Stryker for that short time. And you know, there are a lot of former athletes who do well there, but you're a guy who is so obsessed with wrestling that, yeah, I don't think a 9-to-5 would suit you, and obviously it didn't. But at the same time,
well, hey, let's go back. I loved working for Stryker, right? Because it wasn't a 9-to-5. It was out hustling people, selling medical devices. You know, I was up at 3:30 in the morning. Again, I got motivated. Right, for about 6 months, I wasn't real motivated into working out. I was trying to figure out this job and doing this and blah blah. But you know what? Once I got my feet wet, I finally my family moved and joined me, and after like 6 months of being apart. During the move and the process, well, you know, I joined a gym for the first time in my life, right? I'm actually paying someone so I can go work out. And I was getting up at 3:30. I was getting up at 3:30 in the morning to go get my workout in, because I had no idea how long my day was going to be, right? With medical sales, you know, I was always whatever. I was always, you know, the first surgery was at 6:40 in the morning. Whether they wanted me there or not, I was there. Whether I was supposed to be at this hospital or not, I was there. I went to a hospital where they said, we don't want you there. Well, I showed up anyway. Right. And I was trying to, you know, sell the doctors and doing this and doing that. And who knows, right? I could get a call at 5 o'clock at night saying, hey, we need you 2 hours away. Somebody needs your device. Can you come up there? Well, you get there for the surgery. It doesn't go off till 9 o'clock. It gets over at 11, 2-hour drive home at 1 o'clock. Then I got to do some paperwork in my home office, and I'm back up at 3:30. So that's what I loved about it, was it wasn't a 9-to-5. It was about, you know, out hustling your opponents, out hustling your competition, you know, forging relationships with doctors. And you know what it really came down to was, it was almost the same thing like wrestling. It was out recruiting people. It was forming relationships with recruits at early ages. It was doing right. And that's where I was doing well, because I was able to make those relationships and those contacts and things like that. But it wasn't wrestling. It wasn't on the mat. It wasn't, You know, it was in a different realm that wasn't my realm. I wasn't real knowledgeable in the medical world. I was trying to learn different surgeries. There's no doubt in my mind if I would have stayed in it, I would have been very, very, very successful. I was very, very successful when I was in it for 16 months. But it wasn't my passion. It wasn't my energy wasn't going to be there, and I couldn't be more happy and blessed to be doing something that I truly, truly love in a place that I want to be.
Yeah. No, I'm in sales, and there's no question that athletes, and particularly wrestlers, do well there because it's just it's an outwork, outgrind kind of thing. Paul Glenn is one of my mentors, and he's been on this show.
Yeah, Paul got me into it. Paul got me my job.
No kidding. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, he's a great guy. He was just on the podcast about a month ago. So you get to South Dakota State. Were they even Division I at that time?
They sure were.
They were. Okay, I didn't know if they were Division I or not yet. Okay, so that's truly, that was at the grassroots level. I mean, at Chattanooga, it was, a mid-major program, but they've had some success. Like Terry Brands had been there. I don't know if that was before or after you, but right around that time. But then you get to South Dakota. That is truly grassroots. What was it like building a program, and what was the philosophy you kind of brought to the guys there? I mean, what were the highs and lows? Just kind of talk us through that, because it's such an incredible story.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. A lot of people say, "What's your highlight of your career? What's the proudest?" One of my most proud moments is building that program up, because when I took it over, I was just so grateful to be back in the sport of wrestling. So grateful that somebody would take a chance on a guy that's been out of it for 2 years to come lead a program. Not to be an assistant, but to be the head coach. And when I took it over, I'm the man. I got the mentality that, well, I don't care, right? What's our budget? Thank you. Right? My budget's this. Thank you. Right? What's the salary for the assistant coaches? Thank you. How many scholarships do we have? 6 scholarships. All right. Thank you. And then I sit down and say, all right, I've got 6 scholarships. I've got a small budget. I can only have 1 assistant coach, blah, blah, blah. We got to find a way now to win. And so, we created a philosophy, a strategy, and there was a lot of bumps in the road. So I had to redo things, right? We had to change staff. We had a lot of issues to get to where we were. And, luckily things clicked. And the bottom line was I had the student athletes that bought into our system. And you know what? I had an unbelievable administration there at South Dakota State that let me do what I needed to do to turn that program around. And it was hard, right? We showed up at the national tournament 2 years in a row and came home with not even an individual win. Last place in the country 2 years in a row. I always remember numbers, 77, 77. It was like 53, and then it was in the 30s, and then 20 something, and then 12, right? Those were that's what we finished. So every year
in the country,
every year we were better, and that's what we kept telling everybody. We got to be better than we were last year, as individuals, as coaches, and as a team. We got to be better than we were last year. And I promise you guys, you have 5 years. You get better than you were last year. You get better than you were the next year. You are going to find success, but it's not going to be easy. And they bought in, right? I mean, they bought in. My last year there, Luke Zilberberg and David Kocher becoming All-Americans from like the 13 and the 12 seed are some of the biggest moments of my career. Obviously Seth Gross winning the national title, but he was expected to, really, the number 1 seed in the tournament. He was expected, but these guys that really, really bought in from the day they were freshmen, and they stayed with us for 5 years and did everything right. They finally were able to reach their goals at the end, and just amazing. So grateful for my time there, grateful for being able to get back into it, and it really taught me how to be a better coach, being at a program like that where you had to really turn it around instead of just jumping into something where it's already set in motion and you just kind of continue it.
Well, I'm sure your time at Stryker helped, because you had to be kind of a salesman in a sense of fundraising and selling the program. So you kind of had this merging of worlds that all came to this point where it was just like the perfect storm. And then you get to South Dakota State 6 years later, you're Big 12 Coach of the Year, Big 12 against like Oklahoma State, against Oklahoma, against those guys. So it kind of seemed like a merging of worlds just all transpired at the right time for that program, and you to be successful there.
It sure did. Stryker taught me everything, right? Stryker renewed me. Stryker taught me what passion was. Stryker taught me how to be the CEO of your company. You know what I mean? I was the CEO of a $4 million territory at Stryker. You know what I mean? When you take that mentality into into being a head coach and how you're managing people, how you're managing your athletes, how you're fundraising, how you're running your budget, how you're dealing with scholarship money. You know what I mean? How are you with donors? How do you treat people? What happens when problems arise? Then I brought that into South Dakota State. And again, we needed all that at South Dakota State. We didn't, you know what I mean? We didn't have, this. We don't have this, right? And I was so grateful for that. I was grateful we didn't have the biggest budget, right? Because it taught me I had to go raise some money. I was grateful that we weren't at 9.9 scholarships because, how could I go convince my athletic director and how are we going to work through Title IX issues to make sure scholarships are equal? Right? There was a lot of things that we had to do outside the realm of being a wrestling coach that taught me how to be a wrestling coach. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense. And
Stryker helped me in that sense, and then South Dakota State helped me because there was a lot of challenges that we overcame as a university and as a department that has helped me become the coach I am now, that I have the resources and I have the support and I have everything where I am to take this program to the national championship level.
Yeah, and that's what's exciting about it is, just the last thing in South Dakota, I remember that watching that duel between Wyoming and South Dakota State and just the attendance, the energy, it was awesome. And then, now you're at Wisconsin, which is, in the Big Ten. It's a major program. Just talk us through what that's been like getting there. And, before you, Barry Davis was there for 25 years, something like that. And, the program wasn't in the best shape by any means. So what was it like coming in there? Was it similar to South Dakota State or different in a way?
It was the complete opposite, to tell you the truth, right? We came here and there was already an All-American here. There was already good wrestlers. The resources are outstanding here. The wrestling facilities are outstanding here. Again, the same at South Dakota State. The administration is so supportive here. Coach Alvarez was a high school wrestler at one time. Right. The athletic, the athletic director Alvarez and Chris McIntosh and my direct boss, Doug Teat, are 1,000% behind us, which was the same there at South Dakota State. But I think the difference is I don't know if South Dakota State knew we were going to get it done, right? So there was a little skeptic. There was a little bit of doubt. We're going to bring this guy in, and if he can change it around, that's going to be awesome. But if not, we're going to have to go. I was worried about whether the program was going to be there. You know what I mean? But obviously, after the first couple of years, South Dakota State dumped a ton of resources into it and knew they could be successful. Here, it's man, we're in a culture of winning here at Wisconsin. You know what I mean? Football wins, basketball wins. Everybody, we're a winner. This department is a winner. So they're bringing me in here. We got to win, right? They want to win championships here right away. It's not like let's build this up and see how far we can take it. It's hey, resources are here. The academic support is here. The nutrition's here. The strength and conditioning's here. The administration support here. Let's go win national titles, Bono. What else do you need to do that? And that's
the expectations there. Yeah, it's not if you win, it's when you win. Yeah,
that's right. And that's why I'm here, because I want that on my shoulders. I want to win a national championship. I want to win a Big Ten championship. I want individual national champs and, All-Americans and Big Ten champs and academic All-Americans and graduating people. And they basically, the administration is, hey, here we go. How can we help? Well, let's go win titles.
Right.
It wasn't, and it's not a complete rebuild like South Dakota State was. But now we've had our troubles, right? We've had, it's hard. It's hard to come in and be, the outsider when you've had athletes here for 3 and 4 and 5 years, that are set in their ways a little bit, because obviously no two coaches are the same. And we're a lot different than Barry Davis was. And, but we had our ups and downs last year. But I can tell you right now, even today, I walked in this building, and I was getting my workout in. My athletes were getting done their strength and conditioning. And boy, the upbeat, the positive, the excitement of what's going on here. You can see it in their faces and how happy they are as they walk past me. And I can't be more fired up to get November here and get ready to roll.
So the passion's there right now, middle of July. The passion's there still.
Passion's here. Our guys are here. They're in their last week of training before we, before they get to go home for a little bit of a break. And is it it's at an all-time high. I've been here now since 18 months, 16 months, something like that. And these guys, this is the highest I've seen our program right now, and it gets better every single day.
And I know you've had John Reeder with you for quite some time now. Talk about that relationship and the impact he's had on the program.
Well, the first thing is everybody will throw the word family right around. He's family. He's family to me. And, I trust him with every ounce of this program. You know what I mean? To make decisions, to tell me I'm doing things wrong, to, running the workouts, to whatever. I trust him in every sense of the word, which is it's very comforting to me. The second thing is our relationship started when I was recruiting him at Iowa State for a little bit. And then I got to be his coach for a year, and I was training, and we were training partners, and then we kind of went our separate ways. He went to the Olympic Training Center. And when I went to South Dakota State my first year, I tried to convince him to come. I couldn't do it. And then 2 years later, I convinced him to finally come to me at South Dakota State. And it's a perfect marriage. We have the same ideas, the same goals, the same philosophies, and it's great that we can sit together, and discuss the pros and the cons and be completely honest with each other, right? There's no beating around the bush. We need to do it. And you know what? And there's zero feelings ever hurt. You know what I mean? Sometimes when he comes in and says, I don't think you're doing it right, right? Well, tell me, what would you do? How would we do it? And there's no feelings hurt. It's family talking to family. And I trust him. I trust him with my life. It's great to have that.
I can't wait to see what you guys do at Wisconsin. I'm a huge fan of the Big Ten, and Wisconsin's just 3 hours to the north of where I grew up, and it's just awesome to have another legitimate contender in college wrestling. And the last thing I'll kind of wind down with here is, if you're talking to a recruit, or if there's a recruit listening to this, what are some things you like to see, and what are some things you don't like to see with the high school guys you're recruiting if they want to be a Badger?
Academics. This is one of the best institutions in the world. I tell everybody this that I get in front of: don't let your academics dictate your goals. Mm-hmm. Right? If you have a goal of coming to the University of Wisconsin, win a national championship, you better make sure your academics are on top of it. Don't make me say, listen, I apologize, but there's no way I'm going to be able to get you into school. Right? Make sure you are on top of it academically. Make sure your senior year you're taking a nice rigorous course load, and challenging yourself. And then of course athletically, we like people that want to compete. We like guys that want to compete. In everything. Like we said, when we're playing a kickball game, I want that to be like the national championship. When we're out there throwing a dodgeball at each other, and we love guys that want to compete. Because that's when you have people that have that competitive fire, right? It's amazing how much better you can be. And guys that are hey, anywhere, anytime, I'll line up and work out and wrestle and do whatever it takes. So we like guys that want to compete. And then the last thing, of course, is we want good people. We want to make sure that our program is surrounded with amazing people that will represent the University of Wisconsin the way it should be represented. We want to do it the right way. We want to build it the right way. We want to sustain it the right way. And you know what? We want to win a national championship the right way, with good people behind us, and people that care about the university and the city of Madison.
Man, let's go Badgers, man. I can't wait for the season. The last thing I have to ask you, this came from one of the listeners, coaches. What's your day in the life like in mid-December, mid-January, right in the thick of the season? A listener wanted to know that question.
What's the day in the life? I mean, it's
like, what's that like?
I'm an early morning guy. I like to get up at 4:00, 4:15, and I want to be here. I want to be here getting a workout in, before the guys are here to work out at 5:45 or 6 o'clock. You know,
Wow.
you know, and then of course I go where the day takes me. You know, a normal day, if I'm here in the office, I'm here till practice time, right? We practice at 3:30. And then we, you know, I'm lucky enough that, you know, food is available here in Camp Randall. We'll go down to the little bistro, get something to eat, come back up for lunch. And then it's here till 3:30 and then practice. And then, you know, where's the day take me? Do we go to a high school wrestling match that night? Right. There's nothing off limits. It's in the middle of our season. I do whatever it takes. And then whenever I get home, I get home. Someday, you know, if I get home after practice at 6:30, that's a blessing. If I got to go to a high school match, if I got to go see a recruit, if we got to go talk to kids, you know, that are not, you know, having the best day, the best week, the best month, and that takes us to 8, 9 o'clock at night, so be it. It's go time. That's the time where we go, right? And you go to bed when you go to bed, and you start over at the same time the next morning. I think once I realized that, I was more of a successful coach. It wasn't like I was making, you know, whenever, you know, you make decisions based on what time you have to get up and what time you have to go to bed, that's a problem. So, you know, you can sleep when you're dead. You can, you know, there's downtime in our sport where you can relax and catch your breath. But in the middle of December, it's 1,000% focused on our athletes, making sure that they're doing everything, you know, making sure I'm around as much as I possibly can to make sure that they can accomplish their goals athletically and academically.
It's truly whatever it takes for you. And a lot of people say that, but it seems like there's no doubt. Whatever it takes to get the athletes better, you're there for them during that.
Yeah, and I invite you. Hey, I invite you to come up here in December and follow me around. I'm telling you the truth, man.
I would love that. I was going to say, I want to be a friend of the program however I can. I am blown away by the energy, and I just, you know, just growing up near Iowa City, knew about you from your wrestling days. So, man, I want to be a supporter of the program, whatever way I can, man. So thank you for your time. I know we got to wrap this up, and you just let me know how I can help.
That's the end of this episode, but definitely not the end of the show. For more episodes, please go to wrestlingchangemylife.org. Subscribe to us on iTunes. Give us a star rating. Show the love, baby. Show the love. Thank you so much. We'll see you again soon. Peace.